And we are live. What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday, and more importantly, happy Halloween. Tiger Woods here. Got my glove on. Got my iron here. So we're ready to go here for Halloween. I thought this would be the perfect setup. I have a really great guest for today that I want to introduce. And he goes by the name Climbing Comics over on Instagram. I put his information in the description below. Let me bring him in, and then we'll get into the chat and everything else. So my buddy Alan here. Alan, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, Justin?
It's still going great, man. Going great. Happy Halloween. I like the shirt you
Happy
got on there.
Halloween.
Some Star Trek
Thank
rocking.
you.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah,
I
man.
had some Star Trek, even my my Geordie LaForge glasses.
Oh
so
man, I love it. I love it.
gotta have it ready.
So it's great because like I think it was like it was like last month. I was on this real kick, Star Trek kick, and I was watching Next Generation, which I never watched. And so I've just started. I think I'm on like episode 8 or 9, and I'm just watching like two or three every once in a while when I sit down, but I'm really enjoying it, and so it's great that I might have to I'm gonna consider doing one of the maybe something like that for next year or one of the following years for Halloween, but definitely some Star Trek stuff
For sure.
but it looks good, man. So how you doing? How you been?
Been good. Just been like reading a lot of comics, kind of just doing my work and kind of supplementing all my weekends with just like I guess talking to the comic book community. So yeah, it's been good so far.
It's great. I see your name, coming up in chats and all over Instagram and stuff. You're very active. I know you're putting out YouTube stuff, which I'm sure we're going to get into a little bit here shortly. I do want to mention for anybody watching the replay, or if you're new to the show, if you're here live, this is Comic Collector Origins, where we talk about the community's origin stories on how they started collecting comics. And so this is now the 16th episode. Alan, you're my 16th guest.
Awesome.
So yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. I think we can jump into the chat for a second, and then we can get going with some of the questions about your origin story here. Cool. So I see Kavi is in the house. First one in. What's up, Kavi? Hey. Happy Halloween.
Good Halloween.
Theo, Rage Theo's in the house. What's up, Theodore? Good to see you, brother. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Halloween. All right, cool. So as more people come in, we can stop and go. Alan, as I told you before we even jumped on, feel free to interact with any of the questions or anything that pops up, and we can take this conversation wherever you want to go. So cool. So all right, very first thing, I guess let's start off with just your origin story. Really, how old were you when you got into reading maybe your first comic book? Who was in your life? Who influenced you? Maybe who got you that comic? Give us the story here.
Yeah, well, kind of going down memory lane here. So, I was born in the 80s. So I kind of like once we hit the 90s, that's when all of the shows kind of came out, the X-Men, Batman, Spider-Man stuff came out. But kind of during this time, I think one of the major influences was one of my cousins. So he was reading comics like in the 80s, 70s kind of thing, and he had multiple long boxes, right? So when I used to hang out at my aunt's place and kind of look through his books, he kind of like let me borrow some, and I read some. So it was really cool. At first I was like, all right, these are kind of cool, but I didn't have any backstory to them, right? So I think once I started like watching the shows, like, and kind of getting more background on certain characters, I kind of felt like, oh, okay, now I know how to get into this. So I started collecting, and this was like when the Jim Lee X-Men kind of came out and all of that good stuff. Yeah, so a lot of those like kind of bring back like that nostalgia for me, and like kind of all of this was supplemented with like like Pogs, with like all the trading cards.
I have some Pogs around here.
You have some Pogs? Nice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Like all of this kind of just was like kind of entering my life at the same time, so it kind of all fed into each other. So I was just getting like snippets of like the comic book collecting like community during that time. But yeah, so my parents would only be able to like bring me to comic shops maybe like once a month or every other month. So that was like the hard thing to like kind of get into to stories and story arcs. So I think the shows itself were like the 2-episode story arcs were great for me because I was able to like get everything that I needed. So that's kind of how it all started.
Cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, man. And
Yeah.
it's like, now you mentioned your cousin, he had like a bunch of long boxes, right?
Yeah.
So was he cool with you going through these? Like, did he like lend these to you, or were you just kind of snooping in and going through these boxes yourself?
So I could only like look through them when I was at his place, right? So I
Yeah.
couldn't like bring them home. It wasn't like a
Right,
library type thing. It was, yeah, but like, just I myself realize now why he was doing things that way because like, I was a little kid. I was like paging through them like they were just, like
Mhm.
yeah, just like newspapers and whatnot. So
Right, right.
um yeah, I think once he saw that I kind of understood their value and like what they meant to him, I think
Mhm.
he let me like read them a little bit more. So it took a little bit, but yeah,
Yeah.
he started to trust me.
Nice, nice. So tell me a little bit about your first experience, maybe within going to a comic book shop, or did you have like I don't know if they were really considered LCSs at the time, but did you have a place to go where you started really collecting your books?
Yeah, so this was wow. I really remember the one specific shop when I was a kid, going there maybe just a couple times a year,
Mm.
but actually, I remember going in lots of long boxes, lots of like kind of the bigger, the higher end books on the wall. But at that point, I was like kind of just like fumbling through long boxes and trying to find cool covers and
Mm.
lots of stuff that had to do with like X-Men and Spider-Man because that's what I knew. And
Right.
then so I remember that shop also had like they sold like trading cards, like sports cards. They also sold like different Pokemon cards, all like the type of different hobbies
Right.
that kids would like. So I remember just mainly going through long boxes. I didn't even remember thinking of, oh, let's get current stuff off the wall. Let's like, and I was just like going through long boxes. That was a lot of fun as a
Right,
kid.
right. Oh man, that's the best. I see Johnny U's in the house. He says, "What's up, Alan? Let's hear about them trading cards."
Hey Johnny, how's it going? Johnny's actually the guy. So he was the one that kind of helped me get back into comics
Oh,
over
okay.
this past year. So I'm glad he's in the show. So shout out to Johnny. Thanks for bringing me back in.
Nice. Johnny's starting up the itch again for Alan. Nice.
For sure, for sure.
So you talk about coming back in, and this is interesting because I feel like a lot of my guests that I have on have this kind of in and out with the hobby, and maybe a few times, maybe over the course of, multiple years before they jump back into the hobby. What's that like for you in terms of, you were in it at a young age. Did you take a break? Were you collecting all the way through till now? Or if not, as you mentioned, you got back into it. So kind of tell me when was it that you took that break and how'd you get back in?
Yeah, this is a perfect question because I was actually talking to Johnny about this this past week. So
Right.
as a kid, I was collecting probably like from 5 to like my early teens,
Okay.
right? And then basically from the time I hit the middle of high school to the end of college, that's when I kind of stopped. I think just because a lot of other hobbies came up
Mm.
and that took away from time for me to read, time for me to like actually go to the shop and to the LCS. And I think what got me back into it, it was New Comic Book Day 2019, right?
Mm.
So this was a time when my nieces actually and nephew just watched Into the Spider-Verse. So
Oh,
they
nice.
were really into it. They had the costumes, they had all the toys. So I was like, all right, let's get in there and grab some Spider-Gwen for my nieces. So I went in there, picked up their books, and I ended up picking up a couple books for myself. And
Nice.
that kind of snowballed because after talking to Johnny and things like that, I kind of really got back into it. But now I'm starting to see the ebb and flow of things, right? Because there's so many variants, there's so many like types
Mhm.
of books, there's so many new storylines coming out. Some like I felt like it was hard for me to like keep up. So I could see how easily it is to fall back out, but then also come back in, right?
Right.
Because so I've kind of learned to focus my collection, and I think that keeps me kind of at that steady point because like trying to collect everything was a little bit too much for me. And I see that's how that kind of ebb comes in. But then
Big time.
yeah.
Big time. It's you can't at the end of the day, it's like we can't own it all, right? We can't have everything.
I wish we could.
Right. And even if we did, where would we put it? It's just like
Exactly.
so that it's interesting that you bring that up because it's definitely yeah, I mean it's I feel like anybody that approaches this hobby, it's like you have to take some consideration to, be realistically. It's like, all right, well, what am I going to buy? How much money am I going to invest in this? What do I plan to do with these books down the road? Whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years, and that kind of brings me to my next question, which is for you, what are your goals, and maybe both big and small, you can elaborate on a little bit. And I know this answer probably changes a lot. But at least right now, what are your goals for why you buy and collect and read comics? I mean, I know you're a reader. I know you are into the stories. On the collecting side though, are you into speculation? Are you into selling? Are you into, where do you see yourself with these books down the road, 10, 20, 30 years from now? Are you gonna take them to your grave? Are you gonna are you gonna pass them along to family members or kids one day, or sell them as you get older? What do you think you're doing with all this?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, because I've had to ask myself this as the collection grew, right? And kind of give myself a good reason to do it. So I think for the long run, a lot of my books I want to definitely pass on to the next generation in my family that really likes comics, right? Because I think, to me, when I collect, I actually look at historical value, right? So when people talk about first appearances, like, this book actually has some meaning in the whole storyline, especially since comic characters in general are being more more normalized in the whole community, right? Since all the movies came out, everyone loves characters now, right? It used to be a smaller niche of people. Now it's like everyone. So I think for me to be able to pass on like some of these stories, and I keep looking down because I have some stuff next to me, is that I want to like pass these on to like the members that will actually appreciate it, right? Of course, like as my collection grows, there's so many different parts of comic collecting. I haven't gotten into the part of selling yet, but I know I want this hobby to pay for itself, because I know that's one of the big things a lot of people like do, because like it can't just always be buy, but like you want to like balance stuff out. So for me, just collecting what is special to me and what's special to like the next generation, like in my family, is kind of what drives me to collect what I collect. And I think I want to that's where my focus is. So yeah, in terms of goals, like this year I kind of focus now, instead of just getting all the moderns, I've kind of focused on I'll say, so there's three things that I'm kind of collecting this year. So first thing is ASM annuals, because at first I was kind of collecting way too many ASMs randomly, and I didn't know like how I was collecting. So I kind of focused it on annuals. And then when I first came in, like New Comic Book Day last year, one of my first books I picked up was Justice League Dark.
Nice.
So right now I'm trying to get a bunch of like the Justice League Dark first appearances. And then thirdly, just because I'm really into X-Men, I was like, all right, let me collect just the Dark Phoenix saga. So like right now, those are my three goals. But
I love that.
Yeah, it'll change, and that's why I'm so happy that you and John are doing the omnibus read, because it's actually helping me catch up with those parts which I haven't read yet. So.
Oh, perfect. Are you able to? I would say, are you able to read along with us? Do you have access to these books?
Yeah, so I have whatever. Yeah, I have Marvel Unlimited, so I've been able to read some of them. I honestly, I haven't fully caught up, because I'm trying to also read like the ASM annuals, the Justice League Darks, and it's really good.
It's a lot, but that's cool, man. I'm glad that you're following along, and you're kind of it's helping you kind of fill the gaps of some of these famous Claremont stories. So man. I think it's great. I think it's a great place to start too for as far as an X-Men fan goes. Starting out with the Dark Phoenix saga, that was my first, and luckily I was able to buy it from someone on Instagram, a friend of mine who was had duplicates. He was trying to move all of them as a group at a little bit of a discounted price. So I ended up buying all of them for a little under 200 or whatever the deal was. And
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're all really good condition too. So it was a good deal, a good find. But that to me, I mean, as I got into the X-Men, my mind was like, all right, let me like narrow down obviously there's so many X-Men stories across, X amount of years. Where do I start? Where do I start collecting? And since Claremont was like the first thing I started reading, I was like, well, okay, let's get with these popular stories and obviously some of the most famous ones that everybody knows, even if you're not an X-Men fan. So I think it's a great place to start. And then, like you said too, everything does change, because once you complete these goals, then it's like, well, what next? Where do I go from here? So that's cool. That's great. So yeah, it sounds like I like that, you're organized, you're figuring out, where you want to go with your collection, which is great. And especially, only being back in it for a year, I feel like it took me longer than that to really, even now I'm still trying to get a grasp on like, what I'm putting my money towards and what I'm trying to hold off on. And, my pull list in the beginning was very big, and now I've tried to like really trim that down.
I feel you, man. Mine is still big. So I taper that down a bit.
Big time. And like, are you, well, let's get into like kind of some of the titles that you're reading right now. Cause you mentioned, some key books from Marvel and DC. I am curious, what other books are you reading from these big two? And then also, are you exploring any of the indie stuff going on right now? Because there's this big indie boom, no pun intended, but like, like it's some really big stuff. So I'm curious where your reading list is right now with all that.
Yeah. So a lot of the modern stuff, at least for the big two, obviously are the Dawn of X books, right? So I still have a lot of them on my pull list, right? So the X-Men, X-Force. I wish they continued Fallen Angels, definitely Marauders, like all of that good stuff. I'm still trying to catch up with just the main storylines before I jump into the Swords of 10 or Swords of X, to jump into that. So outside of that, Thor has been great. Donny Cates. Oh man, that's so good. And like the Venom series, I've been reading with. So there's a lot of good modern stuff. Obviously, I'm reading John Constantine's Hellblazer. So since I was like started with Justice League Dark, excuse me. Just like reading a bunch of that. In terms of the indies, right? So I was reading I started getting Seven Secrets, as well as like Red Mother. There's a bunch of other like boom books that I was like kind of looking into. I know that with The Last Ronin coming out, like I was trying to read some of the Turtle / Power Rangers stuff from before from Boom. But yeah, they've been coming out with like a lot of good stuff. I know like what is it? Ablaze that came out with the Resistance. I heard that was really good.
That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good storylines coming out of not the big two. Actually, like, are they big three now? Like, would you consider Image as like they're pretty big?
That's a good point. Some will. From conversations I've had, I've definitely heard it being now considered the big three, as Indie has definitely, or as Image has definitely opened up in a way that they've grown. And especially with some of their biggest titles taking off and having TV shows like Walking Dead and things like that. I mean, I don't think you're wrong if you call it the big three. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I started reading a couple of the DC Black Label stuff. Nice. So like the Hill House. I didn't think that I'd be into horror type books, but like Dollhouse or Basket Full of Heads, and like I guess John Constantine's Hellblazer is considered Black Label, but there's a lot a lot to read in terms of like if I want to get away from just like the normal superheroes, but get into like different types of storylines. Like I've kind of ventured back and forth. So I've just been like kind of spreading myself so I could figure out what catches right for me.
Right. Oh, it's great, man. It sounds like you're at least, I'm glad to hear you're exploring and checking out all these new, types of titles and stuff like that. That's something I'm getting more into, and I'm trying to get even better at that, because there's so many great stories. And just in this year, I mean, the other thing I wanted to ask too was, we're talking about current reads right now, but what are you reading anything? You mentioned X-Men. Are you reading any older titles that came out well before 2019 or 2018?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought this up, because I think I'm reading a little bit more of the older books than I am the newer books right now, because I just read the Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1. That was a great book. I'm reading a lot of the first appearances, right? Because I've read the Black Panther's first appearance, and then some of the other big like movie characters' first appearances, just so I could get a little bit more background. And then talking to my friend Johnny, he was telling me about like these kind of obscure kind of like story arcs. I know in Justice League, there's a story arc called Tower of Babel. And then so I recently read that, and that was like a story arc where you figure out that Batman essentially has all of like these ways to stop each of the Justice League members. And then they use that like in all of the movies now. And then like when he brought that up to me, that, hey, do you know that this is from this story arc? I was like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. And then so we read that, and like we read that together, and then kind of just we have our little book club type of thing.
Hey,
and then
great.
so
I love that.
Yeah, he's teaching me a lot and about a lot of storylines. But I think for me, in terms of reading the early stuff, I'm at my goal also, like kind of comic knowledge goal, is I'm trying to read like at least one ASM, like old, like from 1 through 50, like one every week or two.
Nice.
To try to just like see where like the history came from, right? Because there's a lot of stuff in there that gets called back on, and now I'm starting to realize where it's from. So that it's kind of fun, but I have to put myself in the mindset of like, you're reading this in the 60s or like 70s.
Big time.
It's very different. Yeah.
Oh, big time. I love that you described it like that too, because I've said that to people before as well, where it's like, you know, some people might kind of crap on these older books, and of course they're written in a certain style because they were written in the 60s or 70s or whatever. And I say the same thing, that you have to just mentally like adjust yourself to say, okay, I'm about to get into a book or a story that was written at this era. You know, and I might even try to consider like, well, what was going on at that time? Because a lot of those books kind of can tie into, you know, certain news and wars and things like that, you know, that were going on in the 60s or 70s. So it's like, you know, as long as you can adjust that, you know, I feel like it helps you get that appreciation for the story as you do go through it. You know, obviously you're not taking this as like some Hollywood movie or anything like that, but it's still something you can thoroughly enjoy. And if anything, try to capture what the writer was going after. What did the writer or the creators want you to feel in these particular scenes, you know, even if maybe they are a little corny or a little overly explained, you know, so on and so forth. Daredevil was like that too, where I read a lot where Daredevil like it kind of breaks down his thought processes as he's, well, if I just do this and I swing over here and then dodge this, then maybe the villain's not going to see, you know, like it's just like it really breaks it down. So yeah, it makes you laugh, but yeah, I think it's a good point that you say to kind of have this mental adjustment when you get into these old things.
Like I don't know if you've read or heard of like Marvel the Untold Story, the novel. So I started reading that because like, yeah, Johnny kind of told me about that as well. And it's basically someone writes about like Stan Lee and Ditko and Kirby, like in the bullpen, and like their interaction with each other, and like how, like, you know, it wasn't all like, you know, smooth sailing for everyone. And they talked about like wars that were happening, people being drafted and whatnot. And like that actually has helped me kind of put myself in the mindset of like, hey, all of this stuff is happening in the real world. And you could see how it kind of permeates into the books itself.
Into the story. Cool. Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
And I see my buddy Morbius is in the house here. I wanted to say hello to him. Morbius Comics he was on my he was on this show a couple weeks ago, actually.
Yeah, awesome.
So good to see you, Morbius. I don't know if you caught this, Alan, but when Morbius came on, we actually had to do the show on Instagram because I had some internet issues.
Okay.
And Morbius had this incredible introduction. So if you haven't seen it, you should. It's on Instagram. It's on the IGTV stuff. But Morbius had this hysterical introduction. So very funny. And he also says here he loves the old school writing. So nostalgic. Yeah, absolutely. And that's another good point too. Is, you know, you're in it for the nostalgia of some of these older things. You know, definitely can make you feel a certain way, especially if you read it when you were younger.
For sure.
So that's great. I love that. Are you one thing I want to ask you, and this is probably a little bit of a random curveball, but I keep staring at your name. I wanted to ask, where did you come up with Climbing Comics as your Instagram handle? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so okay. A couple things, right? So I love comics, obviously, but I also within the past like 10 years picked up like rock climbing. So like indoor rock climbing, started doing some outdoor rock climbing. So so then that was like a big part of my life. So then these two things kind of coming together, I felt like I wanted to bring those things together. And actually the picture that I sent you, right? So right. So do you follow hockey at all?
Hockey?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
The
hockey.
sport? No.
Yeah.
Not
So
really.
okay.
Not much.
So I live in the Bay Area. So my local team is the San Jose Sharks. And then one of the things they do is like they have this kind of a sign that says this is Sharks territory. So people would bring that sign around the world in front of different places around the world, and then show that Sharks territory thing, and then show like, hey, your fans are here. So last year when I went on this hike in Peru, it was actually one of the it's actually the hardest hike I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
That's the picture I sent you. So I actually brought Amazing Spider-Man 110. So this is a shout out to the Gibbon gang. So yeah, this is a Reggie Collects thing. And then so I brought it and I kind of showed it as like, hey, this is the cosmic Gibbon. Like this is the highest it's ever been.
I love that.
Yeah. So I think just combining like two of the big loves in my life, that's climbing and comics. I felt like I could easily make this my thing. Plus, my icon is so the three mountains. Like if you zoom in, they're actually like three comics on top of each other. Because it's like the top label of like the circle, and then the Marvel like strip, or like that square or rectangle thing, and then the strip, and then like the image circle. So then I was just trying to like I was trying to be funny and put it all together.
I love it, man. So that explains a lot. And I was starting to put a little bit of a connection together as you sent me your photo for the thumbnail to this. It's funny, when you first sent me that, for a split second, I questioned, is that photoshopped? Or is he actually there? And I started to zoom in. I'm like, oh, he's there. No, he's definitely there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
It was really cool because and that was I was like, oh wow, he's got a comic book and it looks like it's freezing cold, and why would he have it? I was like, oh man, so he actually took that with him. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So that's very cool, man. It's cool that you can combine those hobbies. I have a friend of mine in the family who enjoys rock climbing, and he does a lot of indoor stuff. Him and his wife, and I haven't gone with him, but I've talked to him about it a couple times. I have a feeling I'll eventually join him at some point. I do need to get a little bit more into shape beforehand, though, because I know it's a lot of core. But so it's really cool to know that. I was very curious for a while, actually, where Climbing Comics came from. So
yeah, one of my friends, Johnny, he's like, is that an alliteration towards like, spec buying, like things like climbing comics? Right. I was like, oh, if you think about it that way, maybe, but that's not like the goal. But I was like, that's actually pretty cool. Like, climbing. Yeah.
A few other things here in the chat. Morbius also said he's loving the costumes.
Hey, thanks, man.
Appreciate that. Mercy's in the house. Good to see you, Mercy, over from Sweden. And also Southern Comfort Geeks is in the house as well. No good. You've hit big time with Tiger Woods. Yeah, man.
I know I have hit big time. Nice.
So good stuff here. There's a hashtag comic with a view.
I might have to take that from you, Mercy.
Good stuff. I love the different ideas for hashtags like that. He thought it was Photoshop too. It's true, man. If you get like a quick glance at it, because your mind doesn't like say like, well, how would you how you would bring the comic with you, or if you were really out there, would it be safe to even like bring it out? But when you really zoom in, you can tell it's a real deal. So it's cool, man.
Yeah, man.
Let's jump into we've been talking about a lot of books, but maybe do you have a couple of books that you want to show off here? Maybe something that means something to you or something special to you?
Yeah. So actually, I do have a book that means something special to me. This may be a little bit off, but one of the books that I actually got first slabbed, it's kind of random, but this is the one that I got from my niece. So this is a Spider-Man, Ghost Spider #1. Oh man. Yeah. So this is with her playing the drums. Sorry about the glare there, guys.
No, I've seen that. I've seen that before. And is that the new label, the new Spider-Man label?
Yeah, it's a new Spider-Man label.
Love that.
Definitely. Yeah. So this is definitely going to her. Hopefully, I don't know if she's going to be seeing this, but yeah. Outside of that, I think I'll just pop these in there. Like for my goals, I've actually was able to pick up very early, right away, ASM Annual #1.
Oh man, so, man. I was gonna ask you if you had this. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. 5.5, huh?
Yeah, 5.5 is like really nice. So it just like, it looks really good. I actually only read the story after I got the book, but it just means so much more after I read the story, just because I liked it a lot. Yeah. Outside of that, I think, all right, I have a story for this book. So this is definitely, this means a lot to me. So this is like one of my grails.
I'm jealous.
Giant size. I had to bring this out. I had like, you know, just like on your show, I had to bring out some of my bigger books. This is not like as big as some of your books. Oh man, your X-Men 1, man.
Oh dude, yeah, but that's a big book, man. That is my X-Men 1's the only book I got, and I got lucky getting it. So the thing you got right there is it's a beauty, man.
Thank you. I got this raw. So this was during my trip to Europe, when I was actually doing that a climbing trip out there. And I was like kind of hanging out with some friends out there as well. So I randomly got a phone call at 3 a.m. And I was like, I woke up in my hotel and I was like groggy. I was like, who is this? What's going on? And then so it was one of my LCSs, because I had recently told them that, hey, I'm looking for like, you know, some of these X-Men books, some of these Spider-Man books, like if any of them come in, please let me know. So they gave me a call and they said, hey, we just got in this new collection. We got in like giant size X-Men #1. Do you want us to hold it for you? And then I just like perked up and I was like, yes, I don't care what grade it is or like what condition it's in, like, please hold it for me. So, you know, when I came back from the States, like a week later, I went to the store, I picked it up, and I remember just like going to like the coffee shop next to it. Don't worry, it's bag boarded. Yeah, it was like in a top loader, everything. I didn't take it out, but I was just like staring at that book like in awe. And then so I think that was one of the turning points for me, kind of getting back into comics, to realize that the relationships that people make within the community actually provide more opportunity for you to like kind of collect what you want to collect, right? Because you need a lot of eyes out there, and you need a lot of people to like, you know, who know people and who have certain books that, you know, I started forming a relationship with that LCS shop owner. And then I think because they know that I'm very passionate about this and that like this means a lot to me, that, you know, if they tell me that they have a book, they know that I'll take care of it, that I'll like, it'll mean a lot to me. So just knowing that they'd call me like made me realize like, yeah, this community is really cool. It's I didn't ask them to call me like when they got a book this big, but they did. And I was like, wow, thank you.
They could have sold that to anybody. They could have, you know, so they had you in mind, which is, that's amazing. And the fact that it's 3 a.m. on your side because of where you were, it's like, but it was worth it, right?
It was definitely worth it. Oh my God, it was worth it. Yeah. I've read the Giant Size X-Men story like a couple times already. And it's one of those storylines that like kind of stands right throughout the test of time. Because
for sure.
like it's just the introduction to all the characters I grew up with, right? Like with Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, all those guys on from the show. So it's this one was definitely very special to me.
Morbius claims it, just so you know.
Shipping will be $1 billion.
there you go. TJ Slabdragon's in the house. What's up, TJ?
How's it going, DJ?
Good to see you, man. So that's beautiful. Can you hold that book up one more time? Because that is just man.
Yeah.
And that's great that you were able to get it raw, and so you went through that process, sending it into CGC yourself.
Yeah. This was one of the books I know Claremont recently went to do the signing. I was considering sending it back in, but I just decided not to this time. But this is definitely a cool book to have.
Definitely. And a side question, are you newer to CGC, or was that your first time doing that process, or have you done that in the past?
So I have done a couple books in the past, just because you know, throughout this entire process it's been fun. I've been trying to like dirty grade in terms of like guessing like what the grade would be. And then when I signed up for CGC, I took my own notes in like a Google sheet of like, I see this many ticks, spine ticks, I see like this and that. And then like, you know, like I signed up for that tier in CGC where you essentially, they give you a certain amount of credit. So then you have a couple of
you get your money back basically.
Yeah, you get your money back,
or you put it towards it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
I was initially thinking of kind of sending these in through my LCS, but I also like the fact where, oh man, that I get to see the status of the book, like when it's like coming back or not.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. But going through that process was like, I think it's okay. It's like a fairly straightforward process to do CGC. Yeah,
not bad. Well, I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad, with a book like that, I get nervous about, buying the right type of book, making sure it doesn't have markings in it, or it's missing a page, or something like that. You never know. I hear some scary stories from time to time. I'm sure your LCS obviously, I'm sure checked it, and I'm sure they do that kind of stuff before they even buy it themselves. So it's good that worked out. But I've seen some bad, like, green labels or purple labels come back, surprises that you don't see otherwise. So it's cool to hear that too, that you're testing yourself, which is a great way, by the way, to really get better and hone in on your skills of grading in general. Something I've considered. I haven't done myself yet. I haven't done too many CGC stuff yet, but that might be a good way for me to get a little more into it. It's just by learning and testing myself there.
Yeah, man.
So speaking of learning and going through some of these experiences, I always like to have this part of the show where, I ask my guests, if you had some advice to somebody that was brand new to collecting comics, what kind of advice would that be? And I know that could be a very vague or broad question. Feel free to answer it in either a broad way, or if you want to drill down and talk about something really specific. I've had some guests on here who talked about, like tape, how to properly tape your books or things like that. So any advice that you have for someone new that's trying to get into collecting comics?
Yeah, so definitely I'm going to start off with a callback from Hongi Comics last week, right? Because he brought up a really good point in, like, collecting what you love, essentially, like kind of figuring that out. And then kind of I wanted to bounce my idea off of that, because I didn't know what I loved in the beginning. And I think my piece of advice is, don't have such a narrow focused view in the beginning, and then just like kind of read a lot and just figure out what you love. And only at that point can you figure out, like, hey, just start collecting that. But I think without knowing, like, the full breadth of what's out there, we might not necessarily know what it is. Like, I didn't know I liked horror books, or I didn't know I liked a lot of these independent books. So I think just like listening to people and like being open to read new things is definitely a piece of advice that I would kind of go in with. And that kind of ties in with, talking to, your fellow comic book community members, just to figure out, like, why are they doing what they're doing, and why did they pick up certain books, right? Because, kind of coming into this, I was a little bit hesitant to kind of talk to people that might know a lot more than I do in the comic book space. And I didn't know a lot of story arcs and lots of stuff. So I kind of came in blank, right? So I think just being open and being a sponge and like taking everything in and trying to figure out what you like later on. Don't follow what everyone else is following. Follow what you like. Right. But I didn't know that until, like, I read a bunch of different books. So I think that's my piece of advice. Just figure out what you like before you start. Yeah,
I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's interesting because I like that you said that you're essentially a sponge, right? And that you're really taking in, just being open to different suggestions, not necessarily, going out and buying what people tell you to buy, but, you're open to, I'll explore this or I'll explore that. And I think, I know that can be pricey depending on how the format that you're trying to, collect some of these books. But if you can try things like trade paperbacks and things like that, or even if Comixology is one way. I bring that up because I felt very similar when I got into this, and I still feel that way. I mean, there's still so many story arcs that I know I'm missing out on, and I know or I have an idea of what they are, but I never read them, and I almost feel like nervous or embarrassed to be like, I actually never read that, but I think it's best, as you're saying, just kind of be a sponge, be willing to hear other people out and check things out as you go, but then to ultimately, find out the things that you love or you enjoy. I think it's great points. And actually it reminded me of kind of like food, right? I mean, the way we try food, I didn't know I like certain things, and you won't know you like until you like certain things until you try them. And so it literally ties in very similar to that. So I think those are great.
I love your Instagram food posts, by the way. Like,
thanks, man.
Always make me hungry, and like all those barbecues. Man.
That's my goal. Just try to torture the comic community and make sure everybody's is hungry after seeing that. It's funny that you bring that up because I know Kavi, he comments on a lot of my stuff. Comic Books NYC, that was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but he's always like, "Damn it, man! Damn it! Why do you guys show that stuff?"
Exactly. It was funny when like talking to Hongi last week, I remember you're like, "Hey, are you eating? Are you spending all of your money on books? Are you eating? Like, do you have furniture? Are you okay?"
Oh, it was hysterical, man. It's so funny because last time I talked to him, yeah, he was talking about like, yeah, furniture. I gotta get furniture. He's like, I keep buying books. I gotta really like book. I'm like, oh man, come on, you gotta get your priorities straight here. And then that's where I started thinking about food. I'm like, man, are you even eating? You're just buying books, oh, I see. My dad is here. He says mabuhay.
Hey, mabuhay. Yeah, I'm Filipino, so
I wanted to ask if you were as well. Yeah,
definitely.
Very cool. So what's up, Dad? Good to see you. He says Morbius says pepperoni pizza. Yeah, that's my jam.
Yes, very, very good.
All right, cool, man. So all right, that's those are the main questions I had. I want to hit you with a couple of other questions now. Some things that have to do with comics, other things is not. I know you've seen this before. But the first thing I want to ask you is because you do go back and forth. You talk a little bit about DC and Marvel, and then also the indie stuff. But if you had to choose one, who would you go with? Marvel, DC?
Oh man,
or Image / indies.
Wow. Okay, I don't remember you giving other people this question before.
Nope.
This is a good one. That's hard, but I'm thinking, if I'm just thinking of numbers of like the storylines that I've been reading, I would probably stick with Marvel. I'd probably stick with. Oh man, that's like I read a lot of DC stuff too.
I was gonna say it sounded like you do, so that's why I was curious.
Yeah.
Who where you kind of put that divide. So then if that's the case, I mean, does that also follow along with your favorite character, or if you had to choose one of those, who would your favorite character be overall?
Oh, favorite character overall.
Because I'm curious if that would fall into DC or not.
No, it would fall. It would fall under Marvel.
Yeah.
It would fall under Marvel. So I think for me, I'm a big Spidey fan. I would say like there's definitely like Wolverine is definitely a close second. Like whenever you play those video games like Marvel vs. Capcom and all that good stuff, those are the guys that I choose all the time. But yeah, Spidey's my man. Spidey's my man.
Great choice. I had a feeling, especially you're showing these annuals off, and those are some beauty. So I had a feeling you were. I know. Although I know you're a big X fan too. So
yeah,
that's got to be a difficult split for sure.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a rough one.
Marvel wins. All right. So well, let's talk about your superpower then. You know this question. If you could have one superpower, what would that superpower be?
Okay. So is this a real answer? Could I have the Phoenix Force, like something cosmic?
Yeah. Why not? I mean, you essentially would be like combined with then, right? As the Phoenix Force is like this other power. Yeah. I mean, why not? There's no line we can cross anything. So I love that.
Yeah, like you could put the cosmic power with anyone, right? Like Cosmic Spider-Man. So
yeah. But what would you do with it?
Yeah, then? For me, I would travel the universe.
Oh, I love that.
I would really travel the universe because kind of like reading a lot of the FFs and with Galactus and kind of Silver Surfer. There's a bunch of characters out there that that are like from out of this world, basically, like no pun intended. But yeah, it's kind of cool just to like kind of travel the galaxies and the universe itself. I think that would be fun.
Well, and then you could bring comics with you and take pictures wherever you are in the galaxies that you travel to. You'd have to change your name from climbing to I don't know, universal travel or
yeah, exactly.
Mercy here says yeah, Spidey. He's a big Spidey
guy.
Nice. So very cool. I like that. What about if you could meet somebody, whether they're alive or dead now, in terms of creators, if you could have an hour or dinner with them or pick their brain, who would that creator be? So
I would probably choose Jack Kirby. I would probably choose Jack Kirby because so yeah, when I've been since I've been reading the Marvel The Untold Story, and they give a lot of background on like Stan Lee and Kirby and Ditko and their relationship together. A lot of us like we kind of know and hear about the Stan Lee story, but then it's always like there's other people kind of in the background that shouldn't necessarily be in the background or kind of peripheral, that they might have fun stories of things that happen in the bullpen, right? So I think just chopping it up with him, just figuring out like, hey, like what spurred you to like write things this way or draw things this way, and your relationship. So yeah, I think Jack King Kirby definitely would be my man.
I love it. I love it. We have a lot of people saying Kirby in general. I feel like, on
Cosmic
this show.
Comics.
So there it is. I was just gonna say Morbius hitting it right on the head there.
Oh my god.
That could be
Okay.
the new name eventually.
Nice.
Once you get the Phoenix Force, so you got to get that first.
Yeah, I got to get
and
that
then you
first.
then you can move forward. What's up, Raging Cajun Comics is in the house. Good to see you, brother.
Hey.
So yeah, King Kirby. Yeah, I have a lot of guests that say the same, very similar. Just would love to pick his brain. So I don't blame you there at all. All right, let's flip it over a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about some non-comic book related stuff. So what about well, we were talking about food. What is your go-to Friday night meal? If you could have anything of your choice, if money didn't matter, if you could order it out, you could cook it yourself, whatever it is, what do you look forward to on a random Friday night dinner?
So okay, this might make your dad happy, but I love adobo, like Filipino, like pork and chicken adobo. Maybe some like just to throw in there, maybe some sushi.
Nice.
It's like get a little bit of taste of Asia there, and I think yeah, it's one of my comfort foods, right? Just because it's something that a recipe that I learned from like my grandmother and my parents. And I've kind of made it my own recipe. So kind of just bringing that home is kind of a nice thing. If I were to do takeout, definitely like sushi, but at home, adobo.
I love it, man. I love it. Were you, I'm just curious, sir, this does not have to do with that, but were you born in the States or were you born in Manila or in Philippines or?
I was born in the States. I was actually born in San Francisco in the Presidio there, like the army base there. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you ever gone to the Philippines?
Yeah. Oh man, it's probably like 15 plus years ago.
Wow.
That I've been back. Most of like my mom's side is here in the States. Dad's side's mostly in the Philippines. And yeah, it's just been a long time. I think it's probably due to kind of make a trip back.
Some good places you could climb.
Just that's true. That's true.
Just finished off some Olympia. There you go.
Nice.
Andres here says, what a great power to have. Everyone before you limited themselves with power for Earth, not cosmic. Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of people no one really went with the cosmic approach. So that's definitely unique for sure. Oh, Raisins into the Olympia. That's cool.
Very cool.
Good
Time
stuff.
for a potluck, man.
For sure. All right. What about, are you a sports guy at all? And if you are, who are your teams?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely a big sports guy.
Bit.
Yeah. So hockey, like, so I actually played before like sheltering in place kind of thing. I was playing street hockey in a local group. So hockey is definitely my biggest, followed by basketball. I'm a big Warriors fan. Yeah, and then like mostly that, and of course like for baseball, I'm a huge Giants fan.
Ooh,
yeah, like the World Series didn't make me so happy this year. Sorry to offend anyone. But yeah, and I'm a big Niners fan, so I'm a big kind of just a local sports fan in general. But I would say my biggest sports are probably hockey and basketball. Those are the ones that I've grew up watching and playing myself. So
nice. Yeah. Very cool, man. What do you think about the current state of kind of how they're doing things with like football right now? And like, have you been watching? I know it's, for me, I've been scared that, COVID's just going to like cancel everything, but it seems that they've have pretty decent processes in place so far.
Yeah, for me, I think, well, just since basketball just finished, when they had their bubble, that was like, they did it correctly. Just because like I don't think there were any cases, to be honest, but of course like that meant separation of like people were definitely in a bubble. So I think if sports can kind of follow that methodology, it's definitely definitely doable. It's but yeah, I think it's just based off of each sport, right? Because I don't know if all the rules are the same, but as long as the bubble's good, then the sport's good. Yeah.
Definitely. I remember it when it was slowly starting to come back. Golf was the very first thing that people started to explore, and that's kind of why I started to get into. I am now into golf more than I've ever been before, and it's funny I'm saying this because I'm wearing Tiger Woods.
Yeah. I was gonna say, really.
But I was so. I think I just missed sports so much, with everything being canceled, and obviously, basketball being canceled for the first time ever in history was like so mind blowing to me. It was very hard to like adjust to the understanding of like, what do you mean no sports? Like it was very, very crazy. So glad that they were able to do it. Glad hockey was able to pull it together. We had a whole baseball season, so it was shrunk down, but still it was something. So I'm glad to see that these are all. So this is cool, man. I'm glad we'll have to talk some football later because
for sure
I'm into a lot of it. So very cool. Do you do any fantasy or DFS stuff or anything like that?
So I used to do fantasy football like in previous years, but to be honest, it's like one of the sports where if I don't keep up every single year, like I'll choose the same running back that was good last year, but he's not good this year. And I'm just like, what happened, guys? What happened?
Yeah.
And then I think I'm better at like, the hockey and basketball type of fantasy sports. But yeah, any fantasy sports is fun.
You give it a shot though. No, that's cool. No, you're right. There's a lot of research involved for sure. Ragin says go Kings go, by the way.
Okay. All right. No comment.
All right, let's jump into music. I always like to find out kind of what my guest is listening to a little bit. So kind of where are you currently with music? What kind of artists? And then do you have like a number one or two favorite, all time type of, I don't know, band or group or artist that you listen to?
Man, this is a good question because so I actually have a comic reading playlist that I definitely wanted to talk to you about. So so I don't know if you watch Black Lightning, the TV show.
I don't, but I've heard of it.
Their soundtrack is great. So like they have a lot of like kind of old school R&B type stuff that's not too distracting like when you're reading. But I think for me when I read, I kind of like that kind of old school type stuff. But of course, when I kind of like just do stuff in general, I like that kind of lo-fi hip hop type feel, like Nujabes. And but recently I've been getting more into these 80s sounding type music, right? Okay. So it's kind of like kind of synth type stuff. So
it's like current music, but it's like sounds similar to what would be in the 80s. Okay. Yeah.
So like that's I listened to this band called The Midnight, and they've been really good. They're kind of they're not hugely popular, but definitely like they're fun to listen to. But my bread and butter definitely is like hip hop and rap essentially. Okay. Nice. So I kind of grew up with that, and that's kind of like what I still go back and listen to. A lot of the like I still listen to like Drake and all that good stuff, but definitely the 90s and 2000s hip hop and R&B, that's my jam.
Yeah.
I'll always go back to that.
That's good stuff. I was trying to think of like what was it that you said? With the 80s. For whatever reason, I think of someone like The Weeknd, and I don't know how, maybe I'm off or whatnot, but am I right? Like some of his vibes remind me of like some of these older like 80s style, right?
I like that. I like The Weeknd too.
Yeah, he's great. So that just kind of reminded me of like newer stuff, but the kind of goes to the back. But what was the band called? Midnight or the Midnight?
Yeah, The Midnight.
I'll have to check them out. They sound good.
Yeah, definitely. They're good stuff.
I like that you also brought that up too, the fact that you have a soundtrack. So when I was reading Jason Aaron's Thor, God of Thunder, like the early like the 2016 stuff or whatever, or 2012 stuff, that to me, I started to listen to, or I've been listening to this band, Amon Amarth. They are literally, I don't know if you heard of them. They're literally Viking metal, like Viking death metal. So if you get a chance and you're reading some Donny Cates, I know you're reading it. So next time you read a Donny Cates, go to Spotify or wherever you find your music, YouTube or whatever, and pull up just a whatever biggest song that Amon Amarth has. Obviously, it's going to be it's heavier stuff, but the vocalist who like it's not screaming, but it's like a growl. Certainly, you can understand him, but he sounds like an angry Viking kind of.
Sweet.
But the guitars and everything are just, I don't know. It put me in that mindset as I'm reading, Thor go up against the God Butcher. And just like, I'm just like, man, this is just like
That's
perfect
awesome.
background. Yeah. So
Dude,
I think that is a thing.
Awesome.
That's totally a thing to have a background music for certain,
For sure.
certain tracks or whatever. Morbius, I know he's a big hip hop fan as well. Hip hop wins, man. There you go. My dad is it's very awkward. My dad is a huge Steelers fan, and I am a very big Baltimore Ravens fan.
Oh, nice.
And they are two very big rivals. And of course the odd part is, or the kicker is, my dad lives and grew up in Baltimore. So he is he used to be a big Baltimore fan. And he'll still say he roots for him. But he's certainly a Steelers guy.
Yeah. Do your thing, man. Do your thing.
Yeah. My dad needs help. So just, I love it.
Love it.
So anyways, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you coming on here. Tell us a little bit before we go. Tell us a little bit about where people can find you, and talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, because I want to know a little bit more. I know you're doing some stuff on there. You're starting to put content out there. But is there anything we should keep an eye out for, or any types of content that you're putting out?
Yeah, definitely. So you guys could find me on Instagram, ClimbingComics452. And then on YouTube, I'm just Climbing Comics. So I come out with content probably once a week. So every Wednesday, 12 Pacific. And I'm gearing towards my content towards like kind of my own experience. So I kind of went over how I got back into it, 2020 goals, like what I look for in books and whatnot. But then to go along with my 2020 goals, I kind of put out content in terms of stuff that I'm reading. So I recently just read ASM Annual 1, and I kind of like talk about that book. So I think for me, like my channel is essentially just exploring and sharing my current story with everyone as I go along my comic journey. And so I think my content will definitely be kind of surrounded by the experiences that I currently have. And I'm probably going to keep it that way, mainly because I could talk about the stuff that I go through more easily.
Totally. And you wouldn't be wrong. So, because you wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Definitely check me out. Yeah. Definitely.
Very cool. And actually, I'll have to edit my edit this page, the description, because I meant to put your YouTube link in there and I forgot to. So, but I did add your Instagram. So if you guys aren't following Climbing Comics over on Instagram, go follow Alan over there. And then check out the YouTube channel, man. I'm glad that you're doing your thing. You're putting content out there. You're getting your face out there.
You're one of my inspirations, man. I have to say, like just watching your stuff on Instagram and like your collaborations and your YouTube channel, like was one of the things that put me over the edge to like be like, hey, I need to do this too. I want to do this too.
Oh, so, dude, I'm glad.
Thank you.
Oh man, I'm glad that pumped you up, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's really cool. Last comments here. TJ makes a point. I didn't realize TJ's in Detroit. He said we have the Lions. I don't want to hear about football. And Andres, who's over in Sweden, says, "Damn, always with the Swedish metal bands." Yeah, man. You know it. And Lamar Jackson, he's a beast. So great stuff. Everybody in the chat, guys, thank you so much again for hanging out with us. And as always, I really appreciate the support that everybody's been doing to come out on a Saturday, and whether you've been a guest or you're going to be a guest or you've just been in the chat, always appreciate the time. If you're watching the replay, I know that some people do take the time to watch the replays. Thank you so much for putting some time in to watch, and I hope you learned a little something about Alan here. Make sure you go follow him. We'll be back. I'll be back again next Saturday. I'll have JP Collects on, who I just did a little show with for an indie show last week, which was pretty cool. So I will have him on, I think that's it. Everybody be safe. If you're doing Halloween stuff, make sure it's a safe one, but have fun, enjoy yourselves. And I'll see you all at the Masters. Get it? Masters. Pretty fly for a Filipino guy just came in.
Hey, what's up, buddy? Love his icon.
Yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff. All right, guys. Well, you heard it here, Alan. Go check out Alan's page. And Alan, again, thanks again for everything for being on here.
Thank
Also,
you.
just all the support. I wanted to put that out there too, because we've been talking a lot for a while, and I just appreciate you coming through with the shows and in the chat and just comments on Instagram, things like that. So really appreciate you, brother.
For sure. Thank you. Appreciate you too, man.
Yeah, man. All right, guys. We will talk to you later. Happy Saturday. Happy Halloween.